Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So we're back at Egret Tours Marina once again, and following on from the housing block we built last week, we are going to finish off the little settlement area out front here. Get some food in and the last of the housing. So as always, if you like what you see, do hit that big red button. Let's get stuck in. So we're going to start off by building the last bit of the housing. So I wanted to stick with the rough and ready improvised theme, so we're going to use the shipping containers for this one. And we'll get our markers out of the way. It's very handy to make sure we don't block off that path, but they're now getting in the way a little bit. So the shipping containers, of course, added by unlocked settlement objects. So we'll just grab those with the select all, move it into place. There's going to be sort of two levels to this one, but it's all basically one house, really, as they don't leave that much room inside. So that container at the back is just there to provide support for the upper level, but it will be coming out in a moment. So I'll whip that out of the way. And the idea here was to build a kind of shed on the back, so it's going to be storage space and somewhere to keep bits and pieces for the Brahmin pen that will be going in this corner. But I haven't actually used it for that in the end. But it's still there, so this is how I did it. With a combination of scrap that settlement and CVA in, custom vanilla assets, I had a bit of a problem finding somewhere to sink the pillar in, because now there's large portions of the floor that can be scrapped. So the pillar doesn't always want to sink into that, but found a little spot around the back there that worked just fine, and there we go. So these half walls are in the walls tab, rather than in the half wall tab. So we're just going to grab a couple of those and glitch them together for a full height version that looks considerably more scrappy, which suits the look we're going for on this one. Dead simple, select all, move it into place. It's quite forgiving, so we'll get there, and there we go. Once we get the concrete pillar far enough back so that it doesn't hit the second wall and cause everything to go red. We will clip. There we go. Nice and neatly clipped together. Well, nice and scrappily, depending on how you want to look at it. So same problem again, unfortunately. Not enough room to sink the pillar in, but stick it on the end and use the same little gap we've just used. There we go. Simple as that. Now, as you can see, I can't push it in any further, really. Not any further than that, because we have a collision issue. But it does leave the rather large gap at the top there. So I'll redo the container on top in just a moment, and that should eliminate that problem for us. This time to do it, I've used a couple of rugs and the concrete pillar just to move it into place without the collision issues. So, a couple of rugs together, concrete pillar, select all. We'll lift it off the ground a bit so we can make sure that the container actually sits on the top of the rugs. The thing to bear in mind when you're doing this is you have to leave the rugs in place. So you want to have as small a profile as possible. Actually a little on the large side here, but it doesn't cause a problem. If you can have them sticking out as little as possible, it saves you running into invisible rugs later on down the line. So, put some doors on. Stop to check which way around they open, so I know I've got the right one. Not such an issue with these bulkheads, but with some of them it's a bit more problematic. You can see it's not really going to fit because it's not intended for purpose, but we'll work around that. Step inside so we can make sure that the door is connected properly to the edge of the container. It's just a lot easier to see from the inside. You can sort of see where the bottom's lining up there. There we go. So a couple of shack wall ends. These are in the half walls tab, added by unlocked settlement objects again. They're really for curved metal prefabs, but they're quite good for jobs like this as well. Used them upstairs on the balcony of the CO's office before. And just select all, And it goes in nice and easy. And rinse and repeat. This one's actually a tiny little bit too far back. When you get very close, you see it doesn't quite connect. But you have to look pretty damn close to see that, so it's not a major problem. So I don't imagine we're going to spend much time shoving our face in it. So this is a door from Sanctuary, actually. The doors only open in the one direction. I'll put it on backwards. But it kind of works with the improvised look of the place. The thing to make sure here is that the bottom of the concrete pillar doesn't have to sink in, because obviously it won't sink into the container, so I'll adjust the height a little. And it should, yeah, if it's going red it's not going to work. There we go. Allows us to put the door in with a little bit of clearance on it, so makes it nice and neat. Put this one over to the side. There's the slight problem here that the door's going to get in the way when you go up there, but technically speaking settlers aren't going to go up there anyway, because I'll go for a path up here, but they'll sort of teleport up here to use the bird once they've been assigned though, so that's not too much of a problem. I'll just slide this shack half wall in, which unfortunately ends up sticking out, but yeah, there we go. But yeah, it works with the scrappiness. I assume they've nailed it into place or some such thing. So, shack bridge is to provide a little way up there. Didn't just want to put a straight ladder up, I wanted something a bit more interesting than that. This modded one that I'm standing on now, see the curves the wrong way around here. You can't just place it down, you need to snap it onto the vanilla one first, and then you can take that away, which is what I did just before. Right. Like this, we can just move it into place, and unfortunately it doesn't sit quite as closely as I'd like. But there's a fairly simple solution to that. As I say, partly because of the fact I've had to use boards here, and possibly because of the fact we're standing on top of the containers, settlers are not going to path up here, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. So I'm actually going to use this set of shack stairs for a staircase for once, which I don't normally do. Certainly haven't done it in a while anyway. However, we hit a slight snag that the bridge, as I said before, is curved. You sort of see it here now, and therefore it doesn't line up very neatly. However, we have a simple solution to that. These planks are in the floors tab of the main menu when you've got custom vanilla assets on. You can set them up at any angle, and it just gives us a nice straight edge to line the staircase up to. And there we go. Tidy. So I'll bang some railings on there. Again, they won't snap, so select all it is. And there we go. Simple. Same thing we've done 1,000 times before. There we go. I'm not going to show you all of the railings being attached because there's just no need, but these catwalk railings from the quarries around, again added by USO, but they're very handy because we've got a corner piece which I've used behind me here, and these ones which are much smaller, so you can just drop them in to fill smaller gaps, which is a slight problem I was having with using them on this bridge. And there we go, that's basically the structure. You see I put the chain link fences in there on the left for the Brahmin pen. And we'll move on to a greenhouse, which I'm really happy with. I think this is possibly my favourite part of the settlement out front here. As I said before, we're going for that scrappy, thrown together from whatever they can get their hands on look. And it's worked out quite well with that. A little help from custom vanilla assets as well. Which now I've got it figured out is not bugging me half as much as it was doing. Still could have used a little bit of work, but I've got the general knack of it now. So we snap these wall pieces together. Dead simple. Use a few different textures, keep it interesting. There we go. Mishmash going on there. In the past, I've tended towards using the ones with no broken glass in them, but felt the broken glass suited this build a little bit more. So we're going to take the basic structure and pull bits off of it and rearrange it so that we've got a scrappy improvised look to the thing. So grab this half-height wall and plug the gap with that. I could have just snapped it in, but it will sit level with the bottom and be up a little bit further, so roughly where it started off there. I wanted it to sink down a little bit, so use the pillar to push that into the ground. And then we will just snap this glass window on the top. Eventually. And it wants to sit in the right place, there we go. Simple as you like. I'm actually going to leave the gap at the top there, just because, again, working with that scrappy thrown together look. We'll bang the roof on now. Dead easy. There we go. So you can see I've swapped over a few of the walls, pulled out a few bits and pieces, put new ones in. That door frame in the corner there is not going to remain as a door. Again, fits with the improvised look. So we're now going to start plugging gaps up, make it look a bit more ramshackle. So again, grab one of those half walls, and rug and pillar, dead simple, move it in. Takes a little bit of fiddling around to get it to line up, but you can line up the vertical wooden pieces at the edge of them with the ones in the wall behind, so it looks quite neat in a scrappy kind of way. And there we go. Gap is plugged up. Especially as this is on the outside of the settlement, I wanted a reasonably solid looking back wall for that. Same as I did over on the housing block there. This one we're not using the rug. I actually did the first time, but because it sticks in sort of halfway up the wall, it ends up floating in the air and gets in the way, so just select all for that one. And then we will use the rug with the chain link fence here, because that's going to be under the ground, so make sure we can't see any of the frame, and it looks like it's just been sort of nailed into place. These boards, added by Custom Vanilla Assets, they're in the Debris tab, I believe, so it's under the decorations. But we're just going to use those to plug the door up. The idea here is to try and make it look like those cross planks nailed to the frame of the door. It still looks a little bit rubbish there, so I'm just going to stick another one over the top of it. Different board from the same part of the mod. And there we go. Looks much more secure. So again, grab one of the planks from the wood tab. So you can, there are different rotated versions of these at 10-degree increments up to 90 degrees. So we use a 90-degree one, slide it underneath there, and just plug that gap up a little more. There we go. The main reason I'm showing you all of this slightly repetitive stuff is because it shows you how to get the look of the place. But the basic build is actually dead simple, so that's why we just flew on past it. Got one over the door there. And here, as you can see, I've already put a couple more planks in, which we're going to carefully move the last one in. And just line it up there. And sit it in, so it looks like they've done a bit of a slapdash job of repairing the window there, shoring it up a little bit. And same again here. There we are. One very rough and ready greenhouse. So, I'm going to take a moment on this bit, because we're going to use Custom Vanilla Assets to put a scrap of cloth over the doorway here. Which, one of the good things about this is, because it doesn't have any collision on it, you can walk straight through it. On the other hand, because it doesn't have any collision, as you can see by the lack of an outline on it, you can't actually place it. See the build button in the bottom of the UI is greyed out there, or dark. The thing to do is get it basically in place, then scroll through to the first object that is placeable, put that in a position where it could be built, and scroll straight back without moving your feet. And so long as you don't pass any other buildable objects before you get to the one you want to place, you can then place it in. So you see the build button at the bottom is back in colour there. And there we go. It snapped in. So that's not the best job in the world, so I do actually change it. But I'm not going to show you that because that'll just make it twice as long. But if you switch off the toggle and then go out of the build menu and go back into it, you can delete and redo it. You can't move it, but you can delete it again. Scrap it, rather. So what I'm doing here is using the concrete pillar to move the razor grain into place. You can do it with any other food items. However, if you do use select all to move them like this, the game doesn't know you've done it. So if you then place another object in the middle here, where the razor grain started off, of any kind, and use select all, it will still select the razor grain, because the game still thinks it's there. Same's true of anywhere you put it, and it doesn't matter how far away from the final position of it you are, you will still end up selecting it, and it will potentially wind up half a settlement away from where it started. So, better off to find a quiet corner like that one, position things where you're not going to have that issue, and then grab them and move them over. So I'm not planning on building in that corner. The other thing to bear in mind is it might be worth doing that last, because if you want to do anything afterwards, you'll have a nightmare trying to get the pillar back out. So let's have a look around, shall we? Got a powered water pump there. It looked a little bit more heavy duty than the basic one, but was a bit different to the ones we've got inside the main station. So, mixture of custom vanilla assets and USO to put the planks down for a bit of a walkway. Not really necessary, but it's right by the river, so maybe flooding and muddy ground is an issue. It completes the scrappy look of the settlement, so I quite like it for that. Very minimal decoration again, as same problem we had last week with a major FPS drop now. So it's fairly basic. So it's sort of a living room, sitting room for whoever lives here. No power in this place either, just candles and lamps to illuminate it. Yeah, there's one drawback to glitching in the razor grain. The animations tend to start going through walls at that stage, but then they tend to do that anyway. A few lanterns, a few other bits and pieces up here. Tuck right into the corner so we can get past the door. And there we go. Again, fairly basic. That bed fit very neatly. As long as you've not got an overly large bed frame, it does work. Bit of a tight squeeze, but actually no rug glitching needed. Have a quick look at our Brahmin pen here. So just chain link fence and a feed trough from Nuka World there. And Brahmin's not getting in the way. That's convenient. I thought she wasn't going to cooperate there. Yeah. Rug and pillar to get the planters onto the tables. And I've used conduits to make those sprinklers with, which is relatively simple in principle. Just make sure you get the upright correct before you get too far. You'll have to pull it apart and start again, so it'll very quickly get out of line if you don't get it quite right. I ended up having it clip right through the walls at one stage. There we go. It's supposed to move around. Some razor grain growing in there. Somebody sticking their hoe through the wall. It's actually an engine for USO down there, but I've set it up to look like a pump for the sprinkler system. Quite happy with that one. Bit of fiddling with the rug glitch, but it worked. And there we go. So thank you very much for watching as always. If you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter and Facebook at /DarthXionGames. And do hit those wonderful buttons if you liked. It always is very appreciated. And I will speak to you soon. Thank you very much.